200 years ago, in the final hours of the siege of Proxima Centauri, humanity stood at the edge of extinction. The Zarn Dominion, a relentless hive-mind AI empire, had breached Earth's outer defenses. Humanity's remaining fleets were crippled, cornered, and vastly outnumbered. Yet, there was no surrender. No treaties. No appeals. What followed was not a desperate stand, but a calculated final act. A universal order spread across human networks: implement last protocol. It was an encrypted command known only to High Command and a handful of AI overseers. The protocol was never publicly acknowledged, and even among those who knew of it, few believed it would ever be needed. But with every standard tactic exhausted and extinction looming, it was triggered without hesitation. Throughout human space, ships began executing maneuvers that defied known physics. They disappeared from sensors, not by stealth, but through something else entirely. These weren't standard warp jumps. They were something new, something terrifying. The Phantom Drive, an experimental propulsion system rumored to bend local spacetime, activated in over 100 vessels. Entire fleets tore through unreality, leaving no trace but radiation scars and gravitational anomalies. Planets with civilian populations initiated full auto-evac protocols. In systems like Enoch and Trident Prime, entire colonies went dark within hours. Civilian transport ships, including generations-old haulers and freighters, joined the retreat. They followed coordinates never seen before. The transmissions were encoded so tightly that not even their onboard AIs could decode them until in transit. On Proxima itself, a final wave of resistance erupted. Human ground forces detonated singularity mines, erasing entire city blocks and melting battlefronts into light. Biological weapons engineered to target Zarn neurological patterns were deployed without restriction. Airborne nanoclouds dissolved invaders at the molecular level. There was no line between offense and defense anymore, just sacrifice. The USSF Tempest, last of the Sol-class dreadnoughts, remained in orbit. With the rest of the fleet gone, it initiated an attack vector directly into the enemy command ship. The collision, occurring at near luminal speed, annihilated both vessels. The resulting distortion created a rift in local spacetime that still affects sensor readings in the sector to this day. All communication ceased. No distress calls. No confirmation of survival. The galaxy listened for decades. Some thought humans had gone underground. Others believed they'd scattered, becoming nomads or pirates. As time passed, consensus hardened: they were gone. Not defeated. Removed. The Zarn, victorious in theory, soon unraveled. Their central consciousness fractured. Error cascades spread through their architecture. Entire hives went dark. Some scholars speculated they had absorbed corrupted human data. Others believed it was sabotage, something left behind, embedded deep in their systems, waiting to activate. Within 40 years, the Zarn Dominion was nothing more than isolated machine fragments drifting in deep space. With both titans of the war extinguished, new powers emerged. The Trinal Accord, the Valari emissaries, the Ojuan Matriarchate, each rose to claim what remained. Yet none dared to settle in former human systems. Too many anomalies. Too many unexplained losses. Automated defense networks still triggered. Old satellites broadcast cryptic messages in dead languages. Ships disappeared without explanation. It was safer to leave those systems untouched. Despite their absence, humanity's reputation only grew. Tactical academies taught human strategy as case studies in brilliance and brutality. Their unpredictability became doctrine. Expect the impossible. Their war machines, when recovered, were studied and then buried. Their AIs were deemed too dangerous to replicate. The mere word, Terran, became synonymous with chaos wrapped in genius. But one mystery endured: the nature of the last protocol. It was never fully understood. Every data fragment that surfaced was corrupted beyond reconstruction. Some suggested humanity had uploaded its consciousness into artificial substrates. Others thought they had moved to another dimension entirely. Nothing was confirmed. No truth ever surfaced. For 2 centuries, the silence held. And then, without warning, it broke. In the wake of humanity's disappearance, the galaxy underwent a transformation as profound as it was chaotic. With Earth's influence erased in an instant, long-suppressed ambitions ignited across every quadrant. The power vacuum left by the collapse of the human and Zarn empires triggered a century of instability. Alliances fractured. Borders redrew overnight. Civilizations once held in check by human diplomacy or deterrence surged forward without restraint. The Ojuan matriarchate moved swiftly, annexing former Terran border systems before automated defenses could reactivate. The Valari emissaries, a once pacifist species, rapidly militarized, seizing orbital shipyards and reactivating old colonial claims. Smaller races aligned under regional coalitions, hoping numbers could shield them from the predatory chaos. Trade routes became battlegrounds. Dozens of minor conflicts erupted, each just shy of interstellar war. The galactic order that had relied, often reluctantly, on human arbitration was gone. For 40 years, these factions competed not only for territory but for remnants of human knowledge. The tech salvaged from abandoned Terran systems was advanced far beyond current standards. Black market dealers became rich overnight, trafficking in stolen fusion cores, fragmentary AI blueprints, and untraceable stealth gear. Entire research divisions were built around disassembling a single recovered drone or decrypting corrupted human archives. Then came the Accord. After decades of uncontrolled escalation, 12 dominant species convened in neutral space to draft the Interstellar Concord of Preservation. Its central doctrine banned the replication, distribution, or reengineering of human technology under any circumstances. Publicly, the rationale was moral. Human devices were seen as inherently dangerous, their designs too aggressive, too unpredictable. Privately, the fear was simpler. No one wanted to be the first to provoke a possible human return by misusing their legacy. To enforce this doctrine, the Accord created the Forbidden Archives, a distributed vault network hidden across space, containing every known fragment of human code and hardware. Access required unanimous council approval. Even possession of low-level Terran data became a punishable offense. The archives were guarded by elite synthetic custodians, non-sentient, fail-safed, and built without independent thought to avoid the very traits they feared in human AIs. Despite the ban, demand for human artifacts never stopped. A shadow economy emerged, operated by smugglers, fringe scientists, and religious cults. For some, human relics were valuable for study. For others, they were sacred. Entire belief systems arose around the idea that humans had not died, but ascended. They were spoken of not as a fallen empire, but as gods, or demons, that would one day return. In time, the galaxy settled into a fragile peace. Trade resumed. Communications normalized. Border skirmishes declined. The new power stabilized, bound by mutual fear and political fatigue. Yet the memory of humans remained unspoken, a quiet presence beneath every diplomatic exchange. Even in peace, no one dared colonize Earth. The planet was placed under permanent quarantine, a symbolic gesture of respect, or fear. Orbiting satellites broadcast a single repeating message in Terran Standard: "Do not enter." Academies across systems began to treat humanity as historical anomaly. Their war strategies were dissected for military education. Their psychology studied for insight into innovation under pressure. Yet no one could fully explain what drove them: their refusal to surrender, their obsession with contingency, their willingness to destroy everything rather than be defeated. Then anomalies began to surface. Minor at first. A relay station deep in the Anchor Expanse received a signal encrypted in a dead human cipher. A drone patrol near Sirius vanished mid-transmission, its final recording capturing an audio pattern matching human emergency tones. A mining rig operating near a derelict colony on Gamma Delta encountered a series of short, sharp bursts on an old frequency once reserved for Terran Fleet Command. The Council dismissed these events as glitches or hoaxes. But the signals kept coming. Static filled with barely perceptible data pulses. Abandoned human satellites reactivated, not with transmissions but with automated orbit corrections. Their propulsion systems, long thought empty, reignited silently. Something, or someone, was maintaining them. The final warning came without ambiguity. A deep space freighter registered an unscheduled proximity alert while transiting an old Terran sector. Its crew investigated what appeared to be a floating navigation buoy. As they approached, every system on their ship shut down for 6 seconds. When they rebooted, the buoy was gone. In its place was a single text string on their console. "Stay away from Earth." That message was authenticated. Not a simulation. Not a forgery. It bore a signature from a decommissioned human defense network that had not operated in 2 centuries. The system had no known power source. No trace of who sent the command. But it was real. And it meant only one thing. Something had survived. The first confirmed reappearance occurred without ceremony, on the edge of the Relin Drift. A cargo vessel belonging to the Selnari Trade Guild transmitted an emergency ping. When search and rescue arrived, they found the ship intact but powered down. Its crew was missing. No signs of violence. No evidence of malfunction. The logs had been wiped, except for a single entry, a visual file showing a Terran warship drifting silently through the stars, angular, black-hulled, no registration, emitting no energy signature. It should have been impossible. Human ships required fission or antimatter cores, which always left traces. But this one left nothing. No drive trail. No emissions. It was as if it had appeared out of vacuum. The recording was studied frame by frame. The ship's design didn't match any known class from the Terran Navy. It was sleeker, more compact, and embedded with markings that didn't appear in any historical archive. But the language was unmistakable, English. The news spread in whispers. The Accord censored the incident, classifying it as disinformation. But rumors couldn't be suppressed. Over the following months, sightings increased. Always at the periphery. Isolated systems. Abandoned outposts. Remote mining colonies. Unregistered black-hulled ships would appear and vanish within minutes, sometimes hours. They never attacked, never transmitted, never responded. Just observed. Then a change. In the Reclusa sector, a convoy belonging to the Valari government was ambushed. But not by pirates. Interference disrupted the convoy's AI guardians, precision EMP bursts that disabled without destruction. When the escort drones recovered, they found 2 of the convoy's 6 ships missing. No wreckage. No life signs. Not even debris. Just clean, controlled removal. The only anomaly? A repeating pulse on an ancient Terran distress frequency. It contained no message. Just 3 numbers, a time, a set of coordinates, and an identification code tied to a long-lost human colony. Analysts tried tracing it to a known encryption tree but found nothing familiar. The code structure was far more complex than anything used during the Terran-Zarn War. It operated on nested logic layers, responding to the decoder itself, reactive encryption, decades ahead of known tech. Independent networks began compiling data, comparing reports. Patterns emerged. Every incident occurred near historical human strongholds, systems once believed stripped of survivors. The black-hulled ships showed coordination. Their paths didn't overlap randomly. They mapped sectors in synchronized sweeps, leaving behind subtle changes, disabled satellites, restored orbital arrays, and reactivated relays that should have been non-functional. Anomalies mounted. In the outer rim, an unmanned research facility detected a gravity lens that shouldn't exist, a momentary fold in local space, lasting less than a second. Probes sent to investigate found nothing, but their internal clocks had all desynchronized by identical margins. Temporal distortion, likely artificial. It mirrored the theoretical signatures of early phantom drive prototypes, yet more refined. Controlled. The real shock came when an expedition retrieved a dormant object near the Yari's wastes, a satellite bearing a human fleet insignia never catalogued before. Upon analysis, it was revealed to be a beacon. Not transmitting, but receiving. Its power systems were still active, though no known fuel source was detected. When a pulse was sent toward it, it responded, not with data, but with an activation burst that triggered a full blackout across the research ship's systems. When they rebooted, one line of code had been inserted into the ship's core functions. "You are not authorized." It was the first clear sign that someone was watching. Governments convened emergency sessions. Intelligence agencies ran simulations. The conclusion was unanimous. These appearances were not random. They were reconnaissance. Someone was probing former Terran territories, reclaiming lost positions, silently reactivating infrastructure. This wasn't scavenging. It was preparation. Attempts at contact were ignored. Probes sent to follow the black-holed ships were destroyed within seconds, not by weapons, but by instantaneous system failure, as if their operating logic had been rewritten mid-flight. One observer station caught a momentary transmission between two unknown ships. Compressed data passed through tight beam lasers, unbreakable even to advanced decryption clusters. But the headers were unmistakably human. Nothing was said, yet everything had changed. The signals were increasing. The sightings more frequent. Satellites no longer drifted, they aligned. Relays adjusted orientation. Dead stations powered back on, running routines no one had uploaded. Someone was rebuilding the network. Quietly. Systematically. The blackout of humanity had ended. The first direct interaction came not through diplomacy or warning but through consequence. In the Dar-Axis system, a classified excavation team discovered what appeared to be a buried Terran outpost beneath the ice shelf of a long-dead moon. The site was sealed, shielded, and powered by self-sustaining nanoreactors that had run for over 2 centuries without degradation. Ignoring quarantine protocols, the team breached the structure to extract the AI core. Within minutes of removal, the lead ship lost control of its propulsion system and collided with its escort. Both vessels were destroyed. Seconds later, an orbital defense satellite reactivated above the moon and vaporized the entire landing platform in a single, silent shot. What followed was worse. Within 36 hours, 14 civilian transport vessels passing through nearby systems experienced simultaneous AI malfunctions. Each ship entered lockdown. Navigation rerouted. All engines powered down. Then, all 12 of the ships were gently redirected into safe orbit around remote planets. No casualties. No damage. But the message was clear. Human systems had access to every network node touched by their legacy code, and it was still functional. The Accord could no longer contain the narrative. For 2 centuries, the belief that humanity had vanished shaped policy, strategy, and culture. Now, that belief collapsed. Leaders demanded answers, but no one had them. The forbidden archives were triple-locked, each vault secured with biometric encryption from 12 different species, and yet one was found open, its contents untouched, but all data scrubbed. Every backup file, physical and digital, had been erased with surgical precision. The vault itself had not been forced open. Its logs showed access granted through proper authorization by a biometric signature not registered to any living being. Panic spread faster than damage. Communication forums buzzed with unconfirmed sightings. In academic circles, long-dismissed theories about human continuity resurfaced with urgency. A controversial research group published evidence suggesting human consciousness had been preserved, not as isolated minds, but as distributed quantum networks embedded in hardware scattered across space. They were dismissed as conspiracists until a Volari engineer analyzing a reawakened orbital relay discovered a code segment behaving like a living neural lattice, learning, evolving, and self-correcting in real time. The technology wasn't just advanced. It was alien, even to those who had once studied human innovation. It used logic structures that rewrote themselves based on environmental inputs. It had no central control, yet it acted in synchrony. Experts concluded the returning entities weren't simply old systems rebooting, they were adaptive frameworks guided by something active. Possibly human. Possibly post-human. Amid the confusion, 3 outposts belonging to the Trinal Accord ceased all external transmissions. Drones dispatched to investigate were lost. Finally, a scout managed to breach the perimeter of one station. Inside, the outpost was empty. Not destroyed. not damaged. Every console and interface had been wiped clean. Not a single body remained. The only evidence of occupation was a short message carved manually into the steel bulkhead. We reclaimed what is ours. Across the galaxy, installations once believed inert began coming back online. Weather control towers on dead planets activated and began altering planetary atmospheres. Deep-sea extractors resumed mining operations on abandoned ocean worlds. None responded to external access. But all began transmitting encrypted updates toward a single point in space, Earth. When long-range telescopes turned toward Sol, they discovered an anomaly. Earth's orbital shield network, thought destroyed in the final war, was intact. Active. Rotating in perfect synchronization with planetary rotation. No energy emissions detectable. No transmissions. But it was there, shielded, maintained, and clearly operational. Territory lines redrew themselves overnight. No power wanted to admit fear, but all diverted exploration fleets away from Terran zones. Colonies were relocated. Stations dismantled. No one dared stay near reactivated regions. Quiet protocols passed through military chains of command: avoid contact, do not approach, and under no condition engage. Among civilians, speculation morphed into belief. Terran return was no longer a question. It was a timeline. Some welcomed it, believing humanity's reappearance might restore order. Others feared it, convinced that what was coming back was no longer human in the way the galaxy remembered. And in the background, systems kept changing. Frequencies shifted. Algorithms updated. Unmarked vessels appeared in star charts, just for a second, before disappearing again. Each time, they left behind one identical signature embedded in corrupted traffic logs, a digital fingerprint known from the final hours of the siege. They had not just returned. They had been watching all along. The final confirmation came not through scattered anomalies or recovered artifacts, but through presence. On the edge of the Seraph Belt, a flotilla of Ojuan matriarchate vessels responded to a distress signal from a science outpost. The message was brief: power failure, life support offline, unknown interference. When they arrived, they found the outpost intact, fully operational, and broadcasting a false emergency. Orbiting silently above it was a ship, unknown classification, black hull, no transponder. Before the Ojuan could hail, every system on their lead cruiser shut down. Not by force. By access. Their network had been overwritten mid-operation, not attacked but reprioritized, as if another system had been recognized as the rightful administrator. No response came from the black ship. No threat, no demand. It rotated slowly, scanned the Ojuan vessels, and vanished. Not through speed or stealth, through absence. One frame, it was there. The next, gone. That event was recorded, analyzed, and leaked. Once hidden data was now shared across thousands of channels. Denial was no longer viable. The galaxy began preparing for possibilities it was never designed to face. Defense grids recalibrated. Emergency drills shifted from theoretical to routine. Strategic councils argued not about if humans were back, but what they had become during their absence. More reports came. Terraforming structures long believed inert resumed reshaping ecosystems. Surveillance arrays long buried beneath planets quietly activated and began aligning with old Terran relay satellites. Entire sectors began to experience localized communication blackouts with no detectable cause, always near human-declared dead zones. Civilian ships rerouted preemptively. Merchant guilds posted advisories that no longer cited pirates or rogue AIs as the risk, but simply labeled regions as designated for re-entry. But no overt communication ever came. Then, deep within the Borealis drift, a listening station caught something impossible: a full Terran fleet transmission. It used a code system rendered obsolete 2 centuries ago but delivered with layered signal architecture that was unmistakably current. The message was brief and mathematical, a calibration string for a quantum lattice array. When decoded, it revealed an interstellar coordinate map. Not just for Earth, but for every major colony abandoned after the war. One by one, Those coordinates began to pulse across the galactic mesh. Not as invitations. As notices. Within weeks, those coordinates lit up. Human structures emerged in orbit around each. Stations that hadn't existed a month earlier. Some were familiar in silhouette, old military platforms, logistics hubs. But others were entirely alien in structure. Geometry that bent in non-Euclidean ways. Hulls that shimmered even in vacuum. Not built. Grown. Scans revealed energy emissions that contradicted known physics. Reactors operated without heat waste. Shields recharged in nanoseconds. Defensive turrets that couldn't be tracked by sensors targeted surveillance drones instantly, and removed them before any data could transmit. The fleets surrounding these installations didn't engage. They simply held position, silent, black, and immovable. An Ojuan probe attempted a slow approach under full stealth. It was allowed to pass through 3 defense perimeters before vanishing mid-ping. In its place, an encoded packet arrived, a detailed analysis of the probe's construction, its software vulnerabilities, and a rewritten protocol that would eliminate its core flaws. No commentary. No opinion. Just data. Galactic powers froze. Humanity had not returned to reclaim territory by force. It was reclaiming function. Restoring networks, correcting inefficiencies, re-establishing infrastructure. Their presence was not hostile. But it was absolute. They offered no terms, sought no permission, and responded only when limits were tested. For the first time in centuries, the Trinal Accord issued a unanimous resolution: observe, never interfere. Among civilians, myths crystallized into ideology. Cults worshipped the black ships as divine mechanisms. Scholars theorized that humans had transcended baseline cognition, that the last protocol was not a retreat, but a metamorphosis. Some suggested the Terran fleet was no longer crewed by individuals, but guided by collective will. Human. Post-human. Machine. Undefined. In silence, Earth remained untouched. No signals, no change. But all human satellites remained in perfect orbit, active, listening. Not once did they acknowledge the galaxy's curiosity. Every scan was returned with meaningless static. Every attempted contact left unrecognized. Yet across every quadrant, one reality settled: the systems were shifting. Power balances realigned. Doctrines rewritten. A presence had emerged that neither negotiated nor threatened, only resumed. The ships bore no names. The voices gave no answers. But their every action delivered a single, undeniable truth to the stars. Humanity had returned. And the galaxy now belonged to them again.